My child, do not scroll away tonight. There is a reason this message found you in this exact moment. While the rain falls softly outside your window and the silence of midnight fills the room, I want you to listen to me carefully. I have seen the exhaustion you hide behind quiet smiles. I have watched you sit alone in the dark holding back tears nobody else knew existed. I heard every prayer you whispered with a shaking voice when your faith felt weak and your heart felt heavy. You thought heaven had gone silent, but I never left you. Something big is beginning to change in your life, even if you cannot see it yet. The sleepless nights, the emotional pain, the confusion, the waiting, none of it was meaningless. Tonight, something sacred is moving closer to you. Before we continue, comment your location and local time below. And if this message speaks to your soul, gently subscribe and stay until the end, because I still have something important to tell you tonight. My child, stay with me a little longer tonight. I know how tired you are, not the kind of tired that sleep can fix, not the kind people notice when they look at you during the day. I am speaking about the exhaustion hidden deep inside your soul. The kind that sits quietly in your chest while you pretend everything is normal. The kind that follows you into empty rooms, silent car rides, and sleepless nights when the clock glows softly at 3 a.m. and the world feels unbearably far away. I saw you there. I saw the nights when rain tapped gently against the window, while you sat alone in the dark replaying painful memories in your mind. I saw the cold coffee forgotten beside your bed because anxiety stole your appetite again. I saw your trembling hands covering your face while tears slipped through your fingers in silence. And even when no words came out, even when all you could do was stare into the darkness and breathe through the heaviness, I still understood every feeling buried inside you. You thought nobody noticed, but I did. I heard the prayers you never finished because exhaustion interrupted them halfway through. I heard the quiet whisper in your heart when you asked me, "Why does everything hurt so much?" I heard the moments when you almost gave up speaking to me altogether because heaven felt silent for too long. My child, my silence was never abandonment. There were nights when you believed I had forgotten you completely. Nights when the loneliness inside your room felt louder than your faith. You opened your phone searching for distraction because you did not want to sit alone with your thoughts anymore. Yet even then I stayed beside you while distant sirens echoed through wet streets outside and thunder rolled softly across the sky. I never left. You kept asking why life became so heavy, why simple things suddenly felt difficult, why your heart felt emotionally numb even while surrounded by people. But what you could not see was the weight your spirit had been carrying for so long. The disappointment, the hidden grief, the unanswered prayers, the pressure to stay strong when deep down you felt like falling apart. And still, you survived. Do not overlook that tonight. There were moments the enemy whispered that you were weak, broken, forgotten, replaceable. But the truth is, you carried pain that would have destroyed many others, and somehow, you still kept moving forward. Even when your faith became fragile, even when your smile became forced, even when you felt emotionally empty, you still woke up each morning and kept going. I saw every silent battle. I saw you standing in the kitchen late at night, staring into nothing while your thoughts became too loud. I saw you driving through wet roads with tears in your eyes, hoping nobody at the traffic light would notice. I saw the nights you turned over in bed again and again because fear would not let your mind rest. And I need you to hear me carefully now, my child. None of those tears were wasted. Every tear carried a prayer even when no words came out. Every lonely night brought me closer to the broken places inside you. Every moment you thought you were falling apart completely, I was quietly holding together the pieces of your soul. You kept asking me for signs while overlooking the fact that you were still breathing through storms that should have crushed you. That was me sustaining you. That was me protecting your mind when darkness tried to consume it. That was me whispering hope into your spirit even while you sat in silence wondering if hope still existed. Perhaps you found this message tonight because your heart was close to giving up. Perhaps you are tired of pretending you are okay. Tired of hearing people say be strong when they do not understand how exhausted you truly are. Tired of praying for change while nothing around you seems different. But listen to me carefully now. Something is already changing. Not everything shifts loudly. Some miracles begin quietly, like the first drop of rain before a storm, like the faint light before sunrise, like the small feeling inside your chest right now, telling you not to leave this message yet. That feeling is not an accident. I am reaching for you tonight because your soul has been carrying too much alone. You became so used to surviving that you forgot what peace feels like. You became so familiar with disappointment that hope started feeling dangerous. You stopped expecting good things because you did not want your heart broken again. But I did not create you to live trapped inside fear forever. There is a reason you are still here after everything that tried to destroy you. There is a reason your heart still longs for healing even after all the pain. Deep inside, a small part of you still believes that life can become different. Hold on to that tonight. Even now, while the room around you feels quiet and heavy, I am already moving through places you cannot yet see. Doors are shifting, chains are weakening, darkness is losing its grip on you little by little. I know you cannot fully understand it yet. Right now, all you can see is exhaustion, bills, delays, emotional scars, memories that still hurt. But I can see beyond this season of your life. I can see the person you are becoming through this pain. Softer, wiser, more compassionate, more spiritually awake than you realize. Pain changed you, my child, but it did not destroy you. And one day you will understand why certain prayers took longer to answer. One day you will see why some doors had to remain closed. One day you will realize that while you were begging me to remove the storm immediately, I was teaching your soul how to survive it. You are not forgotten tonight, even if nobody checked on you the way you needed, even if people misunderstood your silence, even if you cried quietly so nobody would ask questions. I saw it all, and I stayed. But there is something else I need to tell you tonight, my child. The thing hurting you most deeply is not only the pain you experienced, it is the belief slowly growing inside you that I abandoned you in the middle of it. My child, I know there are moments when you no longer recognize yourself. You wake up in the morning already tired. Not because your body lacks rest, but because your soul has been carrying invisible weight for too long. People see you functioning. They see you answering messages, going to work, smiling politely, completing responsibilities. But they do not see how difficult it has become just to exist quietly inside your own mind. I see it all. I see how you pause before getting out of bed, staring into the dim light creeping through the curtains while anxiety settles heavily inside your chest. I see how the silence in your room sometimes feels unbearable. How the ticking clock at night sounds louder when fear keeps you awake. How even small tasks have started feeling emotionally overwhelming, and still you blame yourself for being tired. My child, you were never meant to carry this much pain alone. There are wounds inside you that nobody knows about. The disappointment you never fully healed from. The betrayal you replay in silence, The exhaustion of constantly trying to stay strong for everyone else while quietly falling apart behind closed doors. You learned how to survive, but survival is not the same as peace. Some nights you sit alone with the television playing softly in the background, not even watching it, just trying to escape the noise inside your thoughts. Other nights you scroll endlessly through your phone because you are afraid of what you will feel if the room becomes too quiet. And when the world finally sleeps, the emotions you buried during the day begin rising to the surface again. The grief, the fear, the emptiness, the unanswered questions. You ask yourself why you feel so emotionally numb sometimes. Why joy feels distant. Why hope disappears so quickly after it finally appears. Why you can laugh with people during the day and still cry quietly in the dark at night. Listen to me carefully tonight, my child. You are not weak because you are exhausted. You have been fighting invisible battles for longer than people realize. Battles inside your mind. Battles inside your heart. Battles inside your spirit. And the hardest part was pretending everything was normal while you were silently drowning emotionally. I know how lonely that feels. I saw you sitting in the car after arriving home, unable to go inside yet because you needed a few extra moments to breathe. I saw you standing under hot water in the shower, hoping the pressure on your chest would somehow disappear. I saw you staring at the ceiling late at night, asking me questions you were too afraid to say out loud. Why do I still feel broken? Why does healing take so long? Why do I feel abandoned? My child, healing is happening even when it feels slow. Rain does not flood the earth all at once. Dawn does not arrive instantly after midnight. And hearts do not heal in one moment after carrying years of silent pain. You keep expecting yourself to recover immediately while ignoring how much emotional weight you have endured. Be gentle with yourself tonight. You survived seasons that nearly destroyed you emotionally. There were mornings you smiled while secretly feeling empty inside. There were conversations where you nodded politely while your mind was exhausted from overthinking everything. There were nights when your faith became so fragile that even praying felt difficult. But even then, you still reached for me. That matters more than you know. Even when your prayers were messy. Even when all you could whisper was "help me." Even when tears interrupted your words. I heard every single one. Do not believe the lie that I only stay close to people who are spiritually strong. I draw near to the exhausted. I remain beside the brokenhearted. I sit quietly with those who feel forgotten. And tonight I am sitting beside you, right now, in this very moment, while thunder rolls softly outside somewhere in the distance, while city lights flicker through the darkness, while you wonder whether life will ever truly change. I need you to understand something important. This exhaustion will not last forever. I know it feels endless right now. I know some mornings already feel heavy before the day even begins. I know there are moments when you fear this sadness has become part of who you are. But my child, pain may visit your life. Yet it was never meant to become your identity. You are still becoming who I created you to be, even through the heartbreak, even through the waiting, even through the nights you almost gave up. There are things happening beneath the surface of your life that you cannot fully see yet. While you focused on what was falling apart, I was quietly rebuilding parts of your spirit that trauma damaged long ago. While you feared nothing was changing, I was teaching your heart deeper compassion, deeper wisdom, deeper dependence on me. But transformation often feels uncomfortable before it feels beautiful. That is why you feel stretched emotionally. That is why certain relationships no longer feel the same. That is why old distractions are losing their power over you. Your spirit has been changing slowly even while your circumstances remain difficult. You are outgrowing versions of yourself that could not follow me where I am leading you. And I know that process hurts. Sometimes growth feels like loneliness. Sometimes healing feels like grief because you are letting go of old identities, old coping mechanisms, old ways of surviving. There are parts of you dying quietly so that peace can finally live inside you again. Do not run from this process, my child. I know you are tempted to numb the pain, to distract yourself, to shut down emotionally so nothing else can hurt you. But if you continue building walls around your heart, you will also block the healing I am trying to bring into your life. Stay open to me tonight, even if your faith feels small, even if you still carry doubts, even if you are afraid of being disappointed again, because I am not finished with your story. And the exhaustion you feel right now is not proof that you are failing. Sometimes exhaustion simply means you have been strong for too long without resting in my presence. Come closer to me tonight. Let me carry what you were never meant to carry alone. Let me sit with you in the silence. Let me heal the places inside you that nobody else can reach. Because the truth is, my child, you think your life is falling apart. But what if I am separating you from the very things that were slowly destroying your soul? My child, there are things I protected you from that you still cry about losing. I know that sounds difficult to accept tonight, because from where you stand, some endings still feel cruel. Some closed doors still feel unfair. Some unanswered prayers still feel like silence. You replay certain memories over and over, wondering what you did wrong. Wondering why things collapsed when you begged me to save them. But listen to me carefully now. Not every door that closed was punishment. Not every goodbye was rejection. And not everything you lost was meant to stay in your life. I know you still carry questions about the things that suddenly changed. The relationship that slowly became cold. The opportunity that disappeared without warning. The plans you built in your heart that never came together the way you imagined. There were nights when you sat alone staring at old messages, old memories, old dreams, asking me why I allowed it to end. You thought I was taking something good away from you. But my child, sometimes I remove things that your heart is too attached to because I can already see the damage they would eventually cause. You only see the present pain. I see the future it would have created. There are people you begged me to keep in your life who would have slowly destroyed your peace. There are places you desperately wanted to go where darkness waited quietly behind the opportunity. There are situations you cried over losing that would have eventually drained the life from your spirit. And because you could not see it yet, my protection felt like abandonment. I know that hurt you. I know you interpreted delays as rejection. I know you mistook silence for absence. I know there were nights when thunder shook the sky outside your window while disappointment shook your faith inside. You wrapped yourself in blankets, staring into the darkness, trying to understand why everything you prayed for seemed to slip through your hands. But what if I was saving you from a pain far greater than the one you feel now? My child, you must stop measuring my love only by what I allow to stay. Sometimes my love is revealed through what I remove. You keep asking why certain people walked away, why certain plans failed, why certain doors refused to open no matter how hard you prayed. But there are truths your heart was not ready to understand back then. Some people only loved the version of you that ignored your worth. Some environments slowly poisoned your peace. Some dreams were built from desperation, not purpose. And if I allowed everything you wanted immediately, you would have walked directly into things that looked beautiful on the outside while quietly destroying you within. I know you do not fully understand this tonight. Part of you still grieves what could have been. Part of you still wonders whether things would be different if you had tried harder. waited longer, loved deeper. But my child, there are moments when letting go is not failure. Sometimes it is rescue. You are asking me to bless things that were secretly breaking your spirit. And because I love you, I interrupted certain paths. That interruption felt painful, but it was mercy. I know there are memories that still ache when they return late at night. The sound of certain voices, the feeling of being left behind, the disappointment of watching life move differently than you imagined. Sometimes you sit quietly in the kitchen after midnight while the refrigerator hums softly in the background, wondering whether you ruined your own future somehow. No, my child, you are not ruined. You are being redirected. And redirection often feels confusing while you are inside it. Rain never understands the purpose of the storm while it is falling. Seeds buried beneath the earth cannot yet see the flowers they are becoming. And you cannot always understand why I close certain doors while I am preparing new ones beyond your vision. But I need you to trust me in this season, even when answers feel delayed, even when emotions still feel heavy, even when loneliness whispers lies into your mind, because there is something happening beneath the surface of your pain that you still cannot see. I am separating you from what cannot follow you into the next chapter of your life. That is why some things suddenly became uncomfortable. That is why certain conversations started feeling empty. That is why old habits no longer satisfy your soul the way they once did. Your spirit is changing even when the process feels lonely. And yes, transformation can feel like loss before it feels like rebirth. You keep trying to hold on to old versions of your life because they feel familiar. Even painful things can feel safe when they are familiar. But my child, familiarity is not always destiny. There are people who only knew the wounded version of you. There are environments where you survived but never truly lived. There are cycles I am trying to break before they break you completely. And I know part of you still resists letting go, because healing feels uncertain. Growth feels uncomfortable. The future feels unclear, at least pain. You already know feels predictable. But hear me tonight. I did not create you to remain trapped in survival forever. I created you for peace, for restoration, for spiritual freedom. And sometimes the first step toward freedom is losing the chains you once begged to keep. I know you cried over things I removed. I collected every tear. I stayed beside you through every lonely night. I watched you question yourself while rain slid slowly down the windows and the city outside moved on as if nothing had happened. I watched you replay conversations in your head until sunrise. I watched you wonder whether you were simply too broken to keep anything good in your life. But the truth is deeper than that. Some things had to fall apart because you were trying to build your future on foundations that could not carry where I am taking you. You are entering a different season now, even if it does not fully look different yet. Even if you still feel emotionally tired. Even if some wounds still ache when touched. Something is shifting quietly around you. And one day you will look back at this painful season and realize I was protecting you long before you understood what needed protection. But there is one thing you still do not realize tonight, my child. If I had not taken certain things out of your hands when I did, they would have eventually destroyed the future I was trying to prepare for you. My child, you have been hurting longer than most people realize. There are wounds inside you that never fully healed. Wounds you learned to hide behind polite smiles, quiet conversations, and exhausted silence. People around, you may think you moved on a long time ago, but they do not hear the thoughts that return when the night becomes still. They do not feel the heaviness that settles over your chest when certain memories quietly rise again. But I know about the pain you buried because talking about it became too exhausting. I know about the disappointment you tried to make peace with, even though part of your heart still aches from it. I know about the regret that follows you into quiet moments, whispering that maybe you ruined everything beyond repair. And tonight I need you to stop pretending those wounds do not exist, because hidden pain does not disappear simply because you ignore it. It waits. It lingers quietly beneath the surface of your life. It shapes the way you trust people, the way you speak to yourself, the way you expect disappointment before hope even has a chance to grow. Some of your reactions now are not coming from who you are today. They are coming from pain you never healed from yesterday. I see the sadness you carry behind your eyes, the emotional exhaustion, the fear of being hurt again, the quiet belief that life will eventually disappoint you no matter how much you pray. My child, you became so used to surviving pain that you forgot what it feels like to live without constantly preparing for heartbreak. That is why you struggle to relax, why peace feels unfamiliar, why happiness sometimes scares you, because part of you is always waiting for something to go wrong again. I know where that fear came from. It came from the nights you cried alone while nobody came to comfort you. It came from moments when trust was broken, from words that cut deeper than people realized, from abandonment, from silence, from prayers that seemed unanswered while your soul desperately searched for relief. And over time your heart built walls to protect itself. But my child, those same walls are also keeping healing out. I know you're afraid to feel everything fully, because if you finally stop distracting yourself, if you finally sit alone with the grief, you fear the pain will consume you completely. So instead, you stay busy, you overthink, you scroll endlessly at night while the television glows softly in the background. You avoid silence because silence forces you to hear the sadness you tried to bury. But I am asking you tonight to stop running from the broken places inside you. Not because I want to shame you, but because I want to heal you. Healing begins where honesty begins. And the truth is, my child, you are more wounded than you allow yourself to admit. There are still tears trapped inside you that never had permission to fall. There are memories that still tighten your chest when they return unexpectedly. There are words spoken over your life that you secretly still believe about yourself. Not good enough, too broken, too late, unlovable. I know how deeply those lies rooted themselves inside your spirit, but they are still lies. You are not defined by what hurt you. You are not disqualified because you struggled emotionally. You are not forgotten because life became heavy, and you are certainly not too damaged for me to restore. Listen carefully tonight while the rain falls softly outside and the darkness wraps around the quiet room you are sitting in. I have not abandoned the wounded parts of you, even the parts you hide from everyone else, especially those parts. I was there during every breakdown you never spoke about. I was there when hospital lights reflected off exhausted eyes. I was there during panic-filled nights when breathing felt difficult and fear crawled through your thoughts like shadows. I was there when you sat alone in parked cars trying to calm the storm inside your chest before walking back into the world pretending you were okay. And my child, I wept with you. You thought you suffered alone, but heaven stayed near every moment, even when you felt spiritually numb, even when you stopped expecting anything good, even when you became angry with me for remaining silent. I never turned away from your pain. But now I need you to understand something important. You cannot carry this grief forever. The pain you refuse to release is slowly exhausting your soul. It is affecting the way you see yourself, the way you trust, the way you hope, the way you pray. Some nights you feel tired not because of what happened that day, but because your heart is still carrying years of emotional weight that was never meant to stay there this long. I know letting go feels terrifying, because pain becomes strangely familiar after enough time. It becomes part of your identity. part of your routine, part of the way you understand life itself. And sometimes healing feels uncomfortable because it asks you to release what has emotionally lived inside you for so long. But my child, you deserve peace again. You deserve mornings where anxiety is not the first thing you feel. You deserve nights where your mind is not trapped, replaying old wounds. You deserve to breathe without constantly fearing another heartbreak is waiting around the corner. And slowly, I am leading you toward that healing. Not all at once, not through loud miracles, but gently, quietly. The same way dawn slowly enters a dark room. The same way rain eventually softens dry ground. The same way my voice is reaching your heart tonight. I know you are tired. I know some wounds still bleed when touched. I know there are nights when loneliness feels almost unbearable. But do not close your heart now. Do not give up just because healing feels slow. Because something sacred is happening beneath the surface of your pain. The walls around your heart are beginning to crack. The numbness is beginning to soften. The version of you that only knew survival is slowly fading away. And before I can bring peace fully into your spirit, there is one thing I will ask you to release completely. Something you have been holding on to far too tightly. My child, there is something inside your heart that has been hurting you quietly for a very long time. Not only the pain others caused you, but the pain you continue carrying because you cannot let it go. I know why. I know forgiveness feels impossible sometimes, especially when the wounds were deep, especially when the betrayal changed you, especially when you gave love sincerely and received silence, rejection, or abandonment in return. There are nights when memories still return so vividly that your chest tightens as if the moment happened yesterday. And deep inside part of you says, if I forgive, then what they did no longer matters. But listen to me carefully tonight, my child. Forgiveness does not mean the pain was acceptable. Forgiveness does not erase what happened. Forgiveness does not pretend the wound never existed. Forgiveness simply releases your soul from continuing to bleed over something that already hurt you enough. Right now, there are places inside your heart where resentment has quietly taken root. Maybe you rarely speak about it aloud anymore. Maybe people assume you already moved on. But I can still see the heaviness it creates inside you. I see how certain memories instantly change your mood. How anger still rises unexpectedly. How trust became difficult after disappointment shattered something delicate inside you. And perhaps the hardest truth of all, part of your pain is no longer coming from what happened. It is coming from carrying the wound for so long. My child, bitterness exhausts the soul slowly. At first it feels like protection. It feels safer to harden your heart than risk being hurt again. So you build walls. You become emotionally distant. You tell yourself you no longer care. But beneath those walls, the grief still lives quietly. The sadness still whispers at night. The loneliness still lingers in empty rooms long after conversations end. I know you are tired of hurting. That is why I'm speaking to you about forgiveness tonight. Not because I want to minimize what happened to you, but because I want to free you from what it continues to do inside you. Some nights you lie awake replaying old conversations while rain slides down the window beside you. You imagine different endings, different words, different choices. You wonder whether things could have been saved if you had tried harder, loved deeper, stayed longer. And while your mind keeps revisiting the wound, your spirit remains trapped there too. My child, you cannot move peacefully into the future while emotionally living inside old pain. I know forgiveness feels unfair, especially when no apology came. Especially when the people who hurt you continued living normally while you carried the emotional damage alone. But forgiveness was never about rewarding them. It is about releasing yourself, because the longer hatred remains inside your heart, the more it quietly shapes who you become. It steals softness from your spirit. It poisons hope. It convinces you that everyone will eventually hurt you if you let them close enough. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop expecting love to feel safe. I do not want that for you, my child. I created your heart for peace, not permanent survival mode. I know. You have reasons to be guarded. I know there were moments when people broke promises, ignored your pain, misunderstood your silence, or left when you needed them most. I know there were nights when you cried quietly into pillows while the rest of the world slept peacefully. And yes, what happened wounded you deeply. But hear me carefully now. The wound does not have to define the rest of your life. You are not destined to remain emotionally trapped in what hurt you. There is still softness inside you. Still love, still light, still healing waiting beneath the exhaustion. But to reach it, something inside your spirit must finally loosen its grip on the pain. And I know part of you resists that, because anger can feel powerful when you once felt helpless. Pain can feel familiar after enough years. Resentment can almost become comforting because at least it reminds you why you built emotional walls in the first place. But those walls are isolating you too. They are keeping people at a distance, keeping peace at a distance, keeping healing at a distance, and most painfully of all, they are keeping parts of your own heart locked away in darkness. My child, forgiveness is not weakness. It is courage. It takes courage to release what wounded you. Courage to stop feeding the pain. Courage to trust me enough to carry justice in my hands instead of forcing your exhausted soul to carry it alone forever. Because some burdens were never meant for you to hold this long. I know there are names, memories, disappointments, and regrets immediately coming to your mind right now. Things you tried not to think about anymore. Wounds you buried beneath distractions, routines, and slants. But I brought them to the surface tonight for a reason. Not to hurt you again. To heal you. Healing often begins where honesty enters. And the honest truth is this. Your heart is tired. Tired of replaying betrayal. Tired of protecting itself constantly. Tired of carrying grief that never fully left. Tired of pretending certain things no longer affect you when deep down they still do. My child, you deserve freedom from this pain, not because the wound was small, but because your soul matters too much to remain imprisoned by it forever. I know forgiveness will not happen instantly tonight. Some wounds heal slowly. Some memories still need time before they stop bleeding emotionally. But I am asking you to begin opening the door, even slightly, even trembling, even uncertain. Let me into the places inside you that still hurt. Let me sit beside the anger, the disappointment, the regret, the grief. You do not have to heal alone, and you do not have to force yourself to suddenly feel okay. I am not asking you to erase the pain overnight. I am asking you to trust me enough to stop building your identity around it, because there is still life ahead of you, still peace waiting for you, still joy that will one day feel natural again, but not if your soul remains chained to yesterday. Tonight, while the distant thunder rolls softly outside and the darkness wraps around the quiet room you are sitting in, I need you to hear this deeply. The pain you experienced was real, but the bitterness growing from it is slowly killing parts of your heart that were meant to live. And if you continue holding on to it, you may not realize how much of your spirit is quietly dying with it. My child, there was a time when talking to me felt easier, a time when hope came more naturally to your heart, a time when prayer did not feel forced, a time when you believed I was listening even before you saw answers. But somewhere along the way, disappointment slowly built distance between us. Not all at once, quietly, slowly, like fog creeping across empty streets in the middle of the night. You did not wake up one morning suddenly far from me. It happened through exhaustion, through unanswered questions, through wounds wounds that stayed open too long, through nights when you begged for relief and only heard silence echo back into the darkness. And eventually, your heart became tired of expecting anything. I know that feeling, my child. I know there were moments when you still prayed with your lips while doubt quietly filled your spirit. Moments when you attended to responsibilities, smiled at people, and carried on with life externally while internally you wondered whether heaven had forgotten your name. You stopped saying it aloud, but deep down part of you began asking, where was God when I needed him most? I heard every one of those thoughts, even the ones you felt guilty for thinking, especially those. You do not have to hide your questions from me. I already know the ache inside your heart. I know disappointment shook your faith more deeply than anyone realizes. I know there were nights when you stared at the ceiling and months unable to even find the energy to pray anymore. The room felt cold. The coffee beside you went untouched. Rain tapped softly against the window, while your thoughts became heavier with every passing hour. And slowly you began drifting. Not because you hated me, but because pain made closeness feel difficult. You still believed in me somewhere inside yourself. But you stopped expecting me to move. You stopped trusting me with certain wounds. You stopped bringing me the deepest parts of your sadness because silence had disappointed you too many times before. My child, I never stopped listening. Not once. Even when you became distant. Even when days passed without prayer, even when you tried distracting yourself from the emptiness by filling your life with noise, routines, and temporary comforts, I remained near you. I watched you searching for peace in places that could never truly hold your soul together. I watched you become emotionally exhausted from carrying everything alone. And still I waited patiently beside the door of your heart, hoping you would let me back into the places pain convinced you to close. Because the truth is, my child, you were never meant to survive this life without me. That emptiness you feel sometimes, that quiet ache inside your chest late at night. That exhaustion no amount of sleep seems to fix. Part of it comes from spiritual distance you no longer fully notice. Your soul misses me more than you realize. I know you tried to become stronger on your own. I know you told yourself not to depend too deeply on anything anymore because disappointment taught you to stay emotionally guarded. But you were not created merely to survive independently. You were created for connection with me. And when that connection weakens, everything else begins feeling heavier too. That is why certain nights feel unbearable even when nothing dramatic happened that day. That is why anxiety feels louder in silence. That is why loneliness follows you even in crowded places. Your spirit has been starving quietly while you focused only on keeping your life externally together. But tonight I am calling you back, not with anger, not with shame, with love. Gentle love, patient love, the kind of love that waits outside in the rain instead of abandoning you when you become difficult to reach emotionally. My child, I understand why you pulled away. Pain changes people. Disappointment creates walls. Delayed answers create fear. And the enemy whispered that my silence meant I did not care. But silence is not always absence. Sometimes I was protecting you while you misunderstood the waiting. Sometimes I was strengthening parts of your spirit that comfort alone could never build. Sometimes I remained quiet because the lessons you were learning in darkness would prepare you for things your future still needs. I know that is hard to understand right now, especially after everything you carried emotionally. But hear me carefully tonight. I never walked away from you, not during the panic attacks, not during the breakdowns. Not during the nights when you almost gave up completely. I sat beside you through all of it, even when you could not feel me, even when faith became fragile, even when you stopped reaching for me consistently. I stayed, and deep down part of you already knows that. Because despite everything that tried to destroy your hope, something inside you still kept searching for me. Even tonight, while you listen to these words in the middle of the night with tired eyes and an exhausted heart, your spirit is still reaching toward me. That longing is not weakness. It is proof that your soul remembers where peace truly comes from. Come back to me, my child. Not perfectly, not pretending, not hiding behind fake strengths. Come back honestly. Bring me the confusion. Bring me the doubt. Bring me the anger you were afraid to admit. Bring me the exhaustion you kept buried beneath polite smiles. I can handle all of it. You do not have to clean yourself up emotionally before coming closer to me. You do not have to suddenly become fearless. You do not have to understand everything first. You only need to stop running, because I am not waiting for the strongest version of you. I am calling the tired version of you, the wounded version, the emotionally drained version. The version sitting alone tonight wondering whether life will ever feel peaceful again. That is the version I want near me right now, and slowly, if you let me, I will begin restoring the parts of your spirit that this world exhausted. But there is something you still do not understand tonight, my child. There is a reason I am calling you back to me now instead of later. Something is approaching your life, and you will need me closer than ever before to walk through what comes next. My child, not every battle in your life has been visible. Some of the hardest wars you have fought were invisible to everyone around you. No bruises, no dramatic scenes, no one standing beside you, fully understanding why simple things suddenly felt so difficult. Yet deep inside, your spirit has been fighting a battle almost every single day. And tonight I need you to understand something important. Not everything attacking you came from ordinary circumstances. Some of it was spiritual. I know that word may sound heavy to you right now, but stay with me carefully tonight. Because there were moments when the darkness surrounding your thoughts became deeper than simple stress. There were nights when hopelessness entered the room so suddenly it frightened you. Times when anxiety wrapped around your chest without warning. Moments when fear whispered things so convincing that part of you almost believed them. You will never heal. You will always feel this empty. Nothing will ever change. You are alone. My child, those whispers were never my voice. I do not speak hopelessness over your life. I do not call you worthless. I do not abandon you to darkness. But there is an unseen battle for your peace, your faith, and your future. And the enemy has been trying quietly to exhaust you emotionally until you stop believing that healing is possible. That is why the heaviness sometimes feels stronger late at night. That is why fear grows louder in silence. That is why certain thoughts return repeatedly while you lie awake staring at the ceiling with tired eyes and a restless mind. You thought you were simply weak. No, my child, you were under attack. The enemy knew there was something valuable inside you long before you realized it yourself. He saw the compassion inside your heart, the purpose attached to your future, the spiritual sensitivity you carry. And because of that, he tried to convince you that giving up would be easier than continuing forward. But hear me carefully tonight. You survived every attack that was meant to destroy you, even when you almost collapsed emotionally, even when panic filled your chest, even when loneliness wrapped around you like cold air in an empty apartment at 3 a.m. You are still here, and that matters more than you understand. I know there were moments when darkness felt overwhelming, moments when you sat alone in parked cars trying to stop your thoughts from spiraling. Moments when thunder rolled outside while fear rolled through your spirit. Moments when exhaustion became so deep that you wondered whether you could continue carrying life this way much longer. And still, I protected you. There were things trying to break you completely that never succeeded, because my hand remained over your life even when you could not see it. You thought you survived by accident, but heaven was fighting for you. There were nights I quieted battles around you that you never even noticed. There were dangers I blocked before they reached you. There were emotional collapses that would have destroyed you completely if my presence had not sustained you quietly through them. My child, you are far more spiritually protected than you realize. But the enemy's greatest strategy was never merely to hurt you. It was to isolate you, to convince you that nobody understands, to convince you that you are too damaged to recover, to convince you that you should stop expecting anything good from life anymore. Because hopeless people stop fighting for their future, and there were moments when hopelessness almost reached your heart fully. I saw the exhaustion in your eyes, the numbness, the silent tears, the nights when you scrolled endlessly through your phone because sitting alone with your thoughts became unbearable. You were not merely distracted. You were trying to escape the battle happening inside you. And I do not say this to frighten you tonight. I say it because I need you to stop blaming yourself for every struggle as if you failed spiritually somehow. Some of what you experienced was warfare against your peace, against your identity, against the destiny attached to your life. But my child, darkness only fights so hard against what carries light. That is why you feel different sometimes. Why certain environments drain you deeply. Why superficial things no longer satisfy your spirit the way they once did. Your soul is awakening slowly even through the pain. And awakening often begins with discomfort. The old version of you is becoming too small for where I am leading you. That is why everything feels unstable lately. The things that once distracted you are losing power. The emotional masks are becoming exhausting to wear. The routines that once numbed your pain no longer quiet the deeper ache inside your spirit. Because I am calling you deeper now, closer, nearer to truth, nearer to healing, nearer to me. And the enemy fears what will happen if you fully realize who you still can become. Right now, you mostly see exhaustion when you look at yourself. Brokenness, delays, fear, emotional scars, but I see resilience. Compassion born through suffering. Wisdom formed through storms. A spirit that survived darkness without fully surrendering to it. You are not weak, my child. You are weary from battle. There is a difference, and weary souls need rest, not shame. That is why I am speaking gently to you tonight instead of condemning you. I know how much you have endured emotionally. I know how many silent battles you never told anyone about. I know there were nights when all you could do was breathe slowly and hope morning would somehow feel lighter. And I stayed beside you through every single one. Even now, while the room around you feels quiet and heavy, there is a spiritual shift already beginning around your life. The chains around your mind are weakening. The hopelessness that tried to bury your future is losing strength little by little. Do not give up now. Not when healing is getting closer. Not when clarity is beginning to rise through the confusion. Not when your soul is finally waking up after so much emotional numbness. Because something significant is approaching your life, my child. Something that will change the direction of your journey completely. And the enemy knows it already. That is why the battle became so intense before the breakthrough arrived. My child, the season you are in right now was never meant to destroy you. Even though there were moments when it felt exactly like that. I know the loneliness became heavy. I know the silence sometimes felt unbearable. I know you questioned why so many things had to fall apart at once. Relationships changed. Certain dreams disappeared. Old comforts stopped working. And the life you once imagined for yourself slowly began looking unfamiliar. But what you called destruction was often preparation. I know that is difficult to understand while you are still standing inside the middle of it. Because preparation rarely feels beautiful at first. Sometimes it feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like isolation. Sometimes it feels like confusion so deep that you begin wondering whether you are losing yourself completely. But my child, I have been preparing you quietly this entire time, even through the pain, especially through the pain. There are things I needed to remove from around you before you could stint to the next chapter of your life. Distractions, attachments, false identities, places where you settled for less than the peace I wanted for you. And because your heart had grown attached to certain things emotionally, the separation felt painful. But pain is not always punishment. Sometimes it is transformation. You keep mourning the version of life you thought you needed while I am trying to guide you toward the life your soul truly needs instead. And yes, the process has exhausted you. There were nights when you sat alone in dark rooms trying to understand why you suddenly felt disconnected from so many things. The conversations that once entertained you now feel empty. The routines that once distracted you no longer bring comfort. Even certain environments feel heavier now, as if your spirit no longer belongs there. That is not random, my child. Your soul is changing. I am preparing you for a different season, and preparation often requires separation before restoration. I know you feel emotionally stretched right now. Part of you wants to move forward, but another part of you keeps looking backward at what you lost. You miss familiarity even when familiarity hurt you, because at least the old pain was predictable. But the future I am leading you toward requires a different version of you. A softer version, a wiser version, a spiritually awakened version. That is why certain storms were allowed to touch your life. Not to ruin you, but to expose what could no longer remain hidden inside your heart. The fear, the dependence on validation, the emotional wounds you ignored for years, the parts of your identity built entirely around survival instead of peace. My child, you cannot carry the old version of yourself into the future I prepared for you. And deep inside you already feel that truth. That is why you no longer fit comfortably inside certain spaces. Why pretending has become exhausting. Why fake peace no longer satisfies you. Your spirit has outgrown things your fear still wants to hold on to. I know growth feels lonely sometimes, especially when nobody else fully understands what is changing inside you. People may think you are distant now, quieter, different. But what they cannot see is the deep spiritual work happening beneath the surface of your life. I am rebuilding you from the inside out, slowly, carefully. The way rain softens hardened ground over time. The way dawn slowly enters the darkness without rushing. That is how healing often works. Not loudly, not instantly, but steadily. And tonight I need you to stop seeing yourself as abandoned simply because life feels unfamiliar right now. You are not abandoned. You are being prepared. Prepared for peace deeper than temporary comfort. Prepared for relationships healthier than emotional dependence. Prepared for purpose greater than mere survival. Prepared for a life where fear no longer controls every decision you make. But preparation requires surrender, and surrender frightens you sometimes. Because surrender means trusting me even while answers remain incomplete. It means releasing control while your future still feels uncertain. It means believing I am guiding you even when the road ahead looks dark and unfamiliar. I know that scares you, especially after disappointment wounded your trust so deeply. But hear me carefully tonight. I would never lead you into a future without first strengthening the soul that must walk through it. That is why this season became so internal. Why you spent more time alone. Why emotional battles intensified. Why silence surrounded you more than before. Isolation was not meant to destroy you. It was creating space for transformation. There were lessons your soul could only hear in quiet places. And I know you hated some of those quiet nights. The nights when distant sirens echoed through wet streets while you sat beside dim lights questioning everything. The nights when tears came without warning. The nights when even breathing felt emotionally exhausting. But those nights shaped you. They taught you compassion, humility, dependence on me, and most importantly, they revealed how deeply your spirit still longs for real peace. Not temporary distractions, not superficial happiness, real peace, the kind that remains even during uncertainty. And that peace is closer than you think tonight. I know you cannot fully see it yet because you are still emotionally tired. But something inside your spirit is already beginning to awaken again. Hope is slowly returning, even if cautiously. Your heart is beginning to believe healing might actually be possible. That is not weakness. That is restoration beginning quietly inside you. And while you focused on what was leaving your life, you did not realize I was already preparing new things to enter it. New clarity, new strength, new peace, new purpose. But before those doors fully open, my child, there is still one thing you must face honestly. One final part of yourself you have been afraid to release. Because where I am taking you next, the old version of you cannot follow, my child. There is a version of you that cannot go where I am leading you. I know that truth feels uncomfortable tonight, because even painful versions of yourself can feel familiar. The wounded version, the fearful version, the version that learned to survive by building emotional walls so nobody could hurt you too deeply again. The version that stopped expecting too much because disappointment became easier to manage than hope. You carried that version of yourself for so long that it started feeling like your identity. But my child, survival was never supposed to become who you are. It was only meant to help you through the storm. And now the storm is beginning to shift. That is why you feel tension inside your spirit lately. Part of you wants healing while another part fears what healing will require. Because healing asks you to release familiar pain. It asks you to stop identifying with the brokenness that once protected you emotionally. And honestly, that scares you. You are afraid that if you finally let go of the old version of yourself, you will not know who you are anymore. You became so used to anxiety, overthinking, emotional guarding, and silent exhaustion that peace almost feels unnatural now. But hear me carefully tonight. You were not created to live permanently trapped inside emotional survival mode. You were created for freedom, for softness, for peace. For love that does not require constant fear. Yet somewhere along the journey, pain convinced you to become someone smaller than the person I originally created you to be. I know why it happened. The disappointments changed you. The betrayals hardened parts of your heart. The unanswered prayers weakened your confidence. And little by little, you began shaping your identity around wounds instead of truth. You started calling yourself things I never called you. Broken, unworthy, too damaged, too far gone, difficult to love. My child, those labels were born from pain, not from me. I never defined you by your worst moments. I never measured your worth by how exhausted you became. I never stopped seeing beauty in you simply because life wounded you deeply. But the old version of you believes those lies now. That is why you struggle to receive love fully, why compliments feel uncomfortable, why you constantly prepare yourself emotionally for disappointment before good things even arrive. The old version of you expects abandonment because it learned to survive heartbreak before it learned to trust healing. And tonight I am asking you to let that version go. Not instantly, not perfectly, but honestly, my child. You cannot enter a new season while dragging chains from the old one behind you. You keep asking me for peace while continuing to feed the fears, destroying your peace internally. You ask for healing while replaying old wounds every night until they become fresh again. You ask for transformation while secretly clinging to the identity pain created for you. And I understand why. Because the familiar feels safer than the unknown. Even suffering can become strangely comforting after enough time because at least you understand how to survive inside it. But where I am leading you next, survival alone will not be enough anymore. I want you to truly live again, to breathe without constant fear, to wake up without expecting disaster every morning, to feel joy without immediately waiting for it to disappear. And yes, part of that journey requires grieving the old version of yourself, the exhausted version, the emotionally guarded version, the version that spent years carrying silent pain alone. That version helped you survive difficult seasons, but it cannot follow you into the future I am preparing. Because I am not merely healing your circumstances, my child. I am healing your identity, and identity transformation always feels painful before it feels freeing. There are parts of you dying quietly right now. Old coping mechanisms, old thought patterns, old fears, old emotional habits. That is why certain things feel unstable lately. Your soul is outgrowing environments, mindsets, and attachments that once defined your life. Do not be afraid of this process. I know it feels uncomfortable. Some nights it feels like you are losing yourself completely. You sit in silence while rain taps softly against the glass and wonder why everything feels so emotionally raw lately. Why certain memories suddenly return. Why tears come unexpectedly. Why your spirit feels restless even when life appears calm externally. It is because transformation has begun, and transformation exposes everything that no longer belongs inside you. The fear, the self-hatred, the shame, the emotional masks, the version of you that believed surviving pain was the highest form of living. No, my child, there is more waiting for you than survival. There is peace waiting. There is purpose waiting. There is rest waiting. But first, the false identity built through pain must loosen its grip on your heart. I know you worry about who you will become if you stop hiding behind those old patterns. Because vulnerability feels dangerous after heartbreak. Trust feels risky after disappointment. Hope feels fragile after years of waiting. But the future I prepared for you requires openness again, softness again, faith again. Not naive faith, not blind faith, but healed faith. The kind that still believes light exists even after walking through darkness. And slowly that faith is returning to you already. You can feel it tonight, can't you? A quiet stirring inside your spirit. A small sense that maybe life will not always feel this heavy. A tiny whisper inside your soul telling you not to give up yet. That whisper is me. Calling you forward, calling you higher, calling you away from the identity built entirely around pain. My child, you are not who trauma said you were. You are not who fear said you were. You are not who rejection said you were. You are still mine. And even now, while thunder rolls softly beyond the dark windows and exhaustion still lingers inside your chest, I am already beginning the slow work of restoring who you truly are beneath all the hurt. But before you fully step into the new season waiting ahead, there is still one final surrender I will ask of you. Because once you release the old version of yourself completely, you will finally begin to see what I have been preparing for you all along. My child. There were nights when you believed I stopped listening to you. You prayed with tears in your eyes, exhaustion in your voice, and desperation deep inside your spirit. You whispered requests into the darkness while the rest of the world slept peacefully around you. Some prayers were spoken aloud. Others never left your heart because pain made words too difficult to form. But I heard every single one, even the quiet prayers, even the angry prayers, even the exhausted silence that carried no words at all. I heard it all. I know there were moments when you wondered why heaven felt so quiet. You asked for signs, you asked for direction, you asked me to remove the pain, to fix what broke, to send peace into the chaos inside your heart. And when answers did not come quickly, disappointment slowly settled over your faith like heavy rain clouds covering the sky. You thought the delay meant rejection. But my child, delays are not the same as abandonment. There are things I was doing beneath the surface of your life, while you only saw waiting. There were moments when I protected you through silence, because immediate answers would have led you into places your soul was not ready to survive yet. I know waiting exhausted you, especially when you already felt emotionally fragile. There were nights when you sat alone beside dim kitchen lights, staring into cold coffee while wondering whether anything would ever change. Nights when thunder rolled outside and loneliness rolled through your spirit at the same time. Nights when you repeated the same prayer again and again because you did not know what else to do. And slowly, part of you stopped expecting miracles. That broke my heart, my child. Not because I was angry at you, but because I knew how deeply disappointment had wounded your ability to hope. You began protecting yourself emotionally from future heartbreak by expecting nothing at all. If you expected nothing, then maybe life could not hurt you again. So you lowered your hopes quietly. You stopped dreaming too deeply. You stopped believing that healing, restoration, or peace could truly belong to you personally. Yet even then, I was still working, quietly, patiently, the way roots grow underground long before flowers appear above the surface. You keep measuring my activity only by what you can immediately see. But many of the greatest changes begin invisibly first. Hearts heal slowly, destinies align quietly, and prayers often move through seasons of preparation before manifestation arrives. I know you became tired of hearing phrases like just trust God while your soul felt heavy with unanswered questions. I know there were moments when faith felt more painful than doubt, because believing required vulnerability you no longer felt strong enough to carry. But listen carefully tonight, my child. Your prayers were never wasted, not one tear, not one sleepless night. Not one whispered plea for help. Heaven collected every single one. Even now, there are prayers you spoke months ago that are still unfolding beyond your vision. There are doors moving quietly behind scenes you cannot yet see. There are changes already beginning inside you that will prepare you to receive what you once begged me for. Because sometimes I delay blessings until your spirit is strong enough to hold them without destroying itself. I know you wanted immediate relief, immediate answers, immediate healing, but instant comfort would not have transformed the deeper wounds inside you. Some parts of your soul needed rebuilding, not merely soothing. That rebuilding process took longer than you expected. And yes, it hurt. I watched you struggle through the waiting. I watched you question whether you were forgotten. I watched fear whisper lies into your exhausted mind late at night while rain tapped against the windows and silence filled the room around you. But through all of it, my child, I never lost sight of you. Not once. You were never abandoned in the waiting season. You were being prepared there. Prepared to recognize peace differently, prepared to value healing deeply, prepared to stop building your identity around temporary things that could disappear overnight, and most importantly, prepared to understand that my timing protects you even when it confuses you, because there were blessings you wanted too early, relationships you would have entered with an unhealed heart, opportunities you would have used to escape pain instead of facing it. Situations that looked beautiful externally but would have quietly destroyed your peace internally. So I slowed things down, not to punish you, to protect you. My child, I know you are tired of waiting. I know there are nights when discouragement still creeps quietly into your thoughts. Nights when you wonder whether life will always feel emotionally heavy. Nights when hope feels dangerous because disappointment taught you how painful expectation can become. But do not close your heart now. Please do not give up now, because the very thing you thought was delayed forever is closer than you realize tonight. You can feel it already, even if faintly. A shift inside your spirit. A strange calm beginning to replace constant panic. A tiny spark of hope quietly returning after so much numbness. That is not coincidence. That is restoration beginning. I know the breakthrough has not fully arrived yet. I know there are still unanswered questions. Still moments when fear returns unexpectedly. Still wounds healing slowly beneath the surface. But something is changing. The waiting season is not endless. The storm is not permanent. And the exhausted version of you that once believed nothing would ever improve is slowly beginning to disappear. My child, I am closer than you think right now. Closer than the fear. Closer than the loneliness. Closer than the disappointment. And the prayers you cried over in darkness are moving nearer to fulfillment, even while you sit here tonight wondering whether heaven still remembers you. But there is one thing you must understand before the blessing fully arrives. If you continue allowing fear to control your heart, you may struggle to receive the very thing you once prayed for. My child, fear has exhausted you more than you realize. Not only the obvious fears, not only the fear of failure or disappointment, but the quiet fears hidden beneath your everyday thoughts. The fears that shaped your decisions so slowly that you barely noticed how deeply they rooted themselves inside your spirit. Fear of being hurt again. Fear of trusting again. Fear of hoping again. Fear that if you finally believe life can become better, something painful will take it away once more. I know why those fears appeared. Pain taught you to expect loss. Disappointment taught you to prepare for heartbreak before joy even arrived, and slowly, without meaning to, you began building your entire emotional life around avoiding future pain instead of embracing healing. You call it being realistic, but often, my child, it is fear wearing wisdom's clothing. I know there are moments when you already feel the change I have been preparing around you. A shift inside your spirit. A quiet sense that something new is approaching. But immediately after hope appears, fear rushes in behind it, whispering, what if it all falls apart again? What if you trust and get hurt again? What if you are disappointed one more time? And because you are tired of suffering, part of you wants to stay emotionally guarded forever. That feels safer. At least fear promises control. But fear also keeps you trapped. I need you to understand this tonight. Fear has been shrinking your life quietly. It has kept you from fully opening your heart, fully trusting my timing, fully believing you deserve peace, fully stepping into the future waiting ahead of you. And the enemy knows that if fear controls your decisions, then your destiny will remain smaller than what I created you for. That is why fear always grows louder near breakthrough moments. Because darkness trembles when healed people begin walking toward freedom. I know how real the fear feels. I know there are nights when anxiety creeps through your thoughts while the room around you sits silent and cold. Nights when your chest tightens for reasons you cannot fully explain. Nights when thunder outside sounds softer than the chaos happening inside your own mind. And I know how exhausting it became constantly overthinking every possibility. Preparing for rejection before conversations happen. Preparing for failure before opportunities begin. Preparing for abandonment before people even have the chance to stay. My child, you became so focused on protecting yourself emotionally that you forgot how to live freely. Fear turned your spirit into a place of constant survival. But I did not create you merely to survive. I created you to trust me enough to live. And trust requires movement. That is the part that frightens you most. Because movement means uncertainty. It means stepping forward before seeing the entire path clearly. It means believing I am already ahead of you even while parts of the future remain hidden. And after everything you experienced emotionally, uncertainty feels dangerous. I understand that. I know disappointment made you crave guarantees, but faith was never built upon guarantees. Faith is built through relationship with me, through remembering that I carried you before and will carry you again, my child. Fear keeps telling you that pain will repeat itself forever, but fear cannot see what I see. Fear only studies past wounds. I see the future beyond them. You keep assuming tomorrow must resemble yesterday simply because yesterday hurt you deeply, but healing changes people. Wisdom changes people. Spiritual awakening changes people. And you are no longer the same exhausted soul you once were. You survived things that transformed you internally. And now the future opening before you requires courage greater than fear. Not perfect courage, just willingness. Willingness to trust me one step at a time. Willingness to believe that peace may truly belong to you too. Willingness to stop identifying yourself entirely through pain. I know fear still whispers loudly some nights. It whispers when you sit alone in dimly lit rooms replaying old disappointments. It whispers when loneliness returns unexpectedly. It whispers when opportunities appear and your heart immediately searches for reasons they might fail. But hear me carefully tonight. Fear is not my voice. I may warn you gently. I may redirect you lovingly. I may slow you down for protection. But I do not imprison your soul inside constant anxiety and hopelessness. That burden was never from me. And the closer you move toward healing, the louder fear sometimes becomes because it senses your chains weakening. But my child, you do not have to obey fear forever. You do not have to build your future around avoiding pain. You do not have to keep shrinking your heart to protect it. There is still beauty ahead of you. Still peace, still connection, still purpose, still life waiting beyond this season of emotional survival. And yes, stepping into that future will require trust again. Not trust in people alone. Trust in me. Trust that I can guide you safely even when the road ahead feels unfamiliar. Trust that not every new beginning will end in heartbreak. Trust that healing is not an illusion. Trust that the storms you survived did not happen merely to destroy you, but to awaken parts of your spirit that comfort alone never could. You are stronger than fear wants you to believe tonight, not because you never tremble, not because you never doubt, but because even after everything you endured, you are still here searching for hope. That matters deeply. The exhausted version of you would have completely surrendered by now if there were not still light alive somewhere inside your spirit. And I placed that light there myself. Do not extinguish it now. Not when healing is finally getting closer. Not when the season is beginning to shift. Not when your soul is slowly waking up again after so much numbness and despair. Because something is about to require a level of faith you have not used in a very long time, my child. Soon you will have to take steps forward without fully seeing the entire road ahead. And when that moment arrives, you must decide whether fear will continue leading your life, or whether you will finally trust me enough to walk forward anyway. My child, something has already begun shifting around your life. I know you cannot fully see it yet. From where you stand, some things still feel uncertain. Some prayers still appear unanswered. Some nights still feel heavy with lingering exhaustion. But beneath the surface of everything, you can currently understand pieces are quietly moving into place. And tonight I need you to pay attention to the feeling deep inside your spirit that tells you change is near. That feeling is not imagination. It is not false hope. It is me preparing your heart for what is coming. For so long your life felt stuck between pain and waiting. Days blurred together, nights stretched endlessly. You kept surviving emotionally while secretly wondering whether you would ever feel truly alive again. Sometimes you feared this sadness had become permanent. But my child, seasons do change. Even the longest winters eventually release their grip on the earth, and your soul has been standing at the edge of a new season longer than you realize. That is why things feel different lately. Not easier yet, but different. Certain thoughts no longer satisfy you the way they once did. Certain fears are beginning to lose their power slowly. Even though you still carry emotional scars, part of you can feel hope trying to breathe again beneath the exhaustion. That is not weakness. That is awakening. You spent so long surviving darkness that you forgot what spiritual awakening feels like when it first begins. It arrives quietly, like soft light slipping through curtains before sunrise. Like distant church bells echoing through empty streets while the city still sleeps. Gentle, subtle, easy to overlook if fear keeps distracting you. But my child, I am drawing closer to the deepest parts of your life now. Not to condemn you, to restore you. I know there were times you believed nothing good could still happen for you. After enough disappointment, your expectations became smaller. You stopped allowing yourself to dream too deeply because disappointment hurt too much the last time you hoped sincerely. But hear me carefully tonight. I did not preserve your life through all those storms merely for you to remain trapped in survival forever. There is purpose ahead of you, peace ahead of you, healing ahead of you. And the closer you move toward that future, the more you will begin noticing small signs that something sacred is changing around you. Conversations feel different. Your spirit reacts differently. Old attachments no longer feel comfortable. The things that once numbed your pain cannot satisfy you anymore because you are changing internally. The old version of you is fading, and I know part of you still grieves that version sometimes. Even unhealthy identities feel familiar after enough years. But my child, you cannot fully receive the future while clinging to the person pain forced you to become. That is why I have been slowly teaching you to release control, to trust my timing, to stop measuring your worth by external circumstances alone. Because the next chapter of your life will require a deeper kind of faith than you carried before. Not shallow faith built only on comfort, but mature faith born through storms. The kind of faith that still whispers God is with me even while tears fall quietly at night. And you are developing that faith now, even if you do not recognize it yet. I know some nights still feel emotionally difficult. There are moments when old fears return unexpectedly. Nights when loneliness creeps back into the room and sits beside you while rain taps against the windows softly. Nights when memories still ache. Healing is not always linear, my child. Sometimes old wounds whisper before they finally disappear completely. But do not mistake temporary emotions for permanent truth. You are no longer who you were at the beginning of this journey. Something inside you has already changed. You are softer now. Wiser now, more spiritually awake now, more aware of what truly matters. Pain humbled you, but it also deepened you. And one day you will realize that some of the darkest nights of your life created the compassion and strength your future will need. Nothing was wasted, not the waiting, not the tears, not the lonely prayers spoken into silent rooms. I was weaving purpose through all of it. Even now, there are doors beginning to shift quietly around you. Opportunities you cannot fully see yet. Peace beginning to enter places inside your heart that once felt unreachable. The future is moving closer while you still sit wondering whether anything is changing at all. My child, trust what your spirit feels tonight. You would not still be searching for healing if I had abandoned you. You would not still carry hope somewhere inside if darkness fully owned your future. You are alive because purpose still breathes over your life. And the closer you move toward the moment I prepared for you, the more the enemy will try to revive old fears, old insecurities, old lies about who you are. Do not listen to them. They belong to a season that is ending. You are not returning to who you used to be. You are moving toward who I created you to become. And yes, the process has been painful. Transformation always costs something. The old version of you had to crack open for healing to enter. The walls around your heart had to weaken for peace to finally reach you. The false identities had to collapse so truth could rise again inside your spirit. But my child, you are closer than you think tonight. Closer to freedom, closer to clarity, closer to restoration, closer to the moment that will finally help you understand why you survived everything that once tried to destroy you. And soon, very soon, you will look back at this season differently, not merely as a season of suffering, but as the sacred place where your soul awakened and your life quietly began changing forever. Because after tonight, my child, you will never fully be the same person again. My child, there is something I need you to understand before this night ends. I never left you, not once, not during the moments when your heart broke quietly behind closed doors. Not during the nights when you cried into pillows because you did not want anyone hearing the pain in your voice. Not during the long drives through wet streets while tears blurred the lights ahead of you. Not during the panic attacks, not during the numbness, not during the silence that made you believe heaven had abandoned you completely. I was there through all of it, even when you could not feel me. I know there were moments when my presence seemed impossibly far away. Moments when fear grew louder than faith. Moments when you sat alone in dark rooms asking questions that received no immediate answers. Why am I suffering like this? Why do I feel so alone? Why does healing take so long? And because silence lasted longer than you expected part of, you slowly concluded that I must have walked away. But my child, my silence was never absence. There were nights when you sat beneath cold hospital lights carrying fear inside your chest while pretending to stay calm externally. I sat beside you then. There were mornings when you woke up exhausted before the day even began because emotional pain had already drained you through the night. I remained near you then too. There were moments when you stood alone in empty kitchens after midnight, staring into nothing while the heaviness inside your spirit became almost unbearable. You thought nobody noticed those moments, but I did. I noticed every trembling breath, every tear quickly wiped away, every silent breakdown hidden behind forced smiles, every exhausted prayer whispered through shaking lips, and even during the moments when you stopped reaching toward me consistently. I never stopped reaching toward you, because my love for you was never dependent on perfect faith. I know you blamed yourself for drifting spiritually. I know shame convinced you that maybe you disappointed me too deeply, maybe you failed too many times, maybe your doubts made you unworthy of closeness with me. No, my child, if anything, your pain only made me draw nearer. I moved toward broken hearts, not away from them. Toward weary souls, toward exhausted minds, toward people who feel too wounded to keep pretending they are okay anymore. And you have been carrying wounds for so long, some emotional, some spiritual, some so deep you barely even know how to explain them anymore. But I know them intimately. I know the exact moments certain fears entered your life. I know the heartbreaks that changed the way you trust people. I know which disappointments made you start expecting abandonment before love even had a chance to stay. I know which nights transformed your faith from simple certainty into fragile survival. And through all those moments, I remained beside you, even while you questioned my presence, my child. There were battles around you that you never saw because I fought them before they reached you completely. There were breakdowns that would have destroyed you if my hand had not sustained your spirit quietly through the darkness. You think you survived by strength alone, but heaven carried you more times than you realize. There were moments when you should have completely collapsed emotionally. Yet somehow you kept breathing. Somehow you kept waking up each morning. Somehow a tiny fragment of hope still remained alive deep inside you despite everything trying to extinguish it. That was me. I know you still struggle sometimes to believe you are deeply loved. Pain distorted the way you see yourself. Rejection distorted the way you receive affection. Trauma distorted the way you understand safety. But hear me carefully tonight. You were never unwanted, never forgotten, never abandoned, not even in the darkest season of your life. The enemy tried convincing you that isolation was proof of rejection. But often isolation became the place where I could finally speak to your soul. Without the noise of distractions drowning out my voice. And slowly, through the loneliness, through the waiting, through the tears, your spirit began waking up again. You became more compassionate, more sensitive to pain around you, more aware of what truly matters. The storms wounded you, yes, but they also deepened you. And one day you will understand why certain things had to break apart before healing could fully enter your life. I know some scars still ache tonight. There are memories that still feel heavy when they return unexpectedly. Certain songs, certain places, certain moments that instantly bring back emotions you thought you already buried. Healing does not erase memory overnight, my child. But slowly I am teaching your heart how to remember without drowning. That is what restoration looks like sometimes. Not forgetting the storm ever happened, but finally learning that the storm no longer controls who you become. And you are reaching that place now. Can you feel it? The exhaustion is not completely gone yet. But something inside you is softer now. Less numb, more open, more willing to believe peace may actually exist again. That is not weakness. That is healing. The walls around your heart are finally weakening after years of survival mode. The identity built around pain is slowly fading. And beneath all the fear and exhaustion, the real version of you still exists. The version I always saw. The version worth loving, worth restoring, worth protecting. My child, I know you still have questions. I know there are things you do not fully understand about the timing of your life yet. But one day clarity will come. One day you will look back at this season and realize that even while you felt abandoned, I was carrying you through the darkest valley of your journey. You were never walking alone, not for a single moment. And now, after all the nights of waiting, after all the tears and exhaustion and spiritual battles, the moment of change is finally closer than ever before, my child. The season you have been surviving is finally beginning to end. I know part of you still struggles to believe that. After so much disappointment, hope can feel unfamiliar. After carrying emotional exhaustion for so long, peace almost feels too distant to imagine. But listen to me carefully tonight while the world outside grows quiet and the rain slowly softens against the windows. Something inside you is no longer the same. The person who first entered this season of pain is not the same person listening to my voice tonight. You have changed, not perfectly, not completely, but deeply. Pain humbled you, waiting softened you. Loneliness awakened parts of your spirit that comfort never could. And now, after everything you survived, a new chapter is quietly opening before you. Not the kind of new beginning the world usually talks about. Not shallow happiness pretending wounds never existed. I am speaking about something deeper. A restored soul, a healed spirit, a heart learning how to breathe peacefully again. My child, you spent so much time surviving that you forgot life could eventually feel different. You became accustomed to emotional heaviness, to overthinking every possibility, to preparing yourself for disappointment before joy even had a chance to arrive. But that constant survival mode is slowly losing its hold on you now. Can you feel it? The fear still whispers sometimes, but it no longer controls you the same way. The pain still exists in places, but it no longer completely defines you. The loneliness still visits occasionally, but something inside your spirit now knows you are not abandoned anymore. That realization changes everything, because once a soul truly understands it is not alone, healing begins moving differently inside it. I know the transformation felt slow. There were nights when you believed nothing was changing at all. Nights when tears still came unexpectedly. Nights when exhaustion sat heavily inside your chest while the clock moved quietly past midnight and distant sirens echoed through dark streets outside. But even then, restoration was happening, quietly, the way dawn arrives before most people notice the darkness fading. That is how I heal hearts sometimes, not through sudden noise, but through steady presence. And my presence has been rebuilding you piece by piece. I restored parts of your spirit while you slept. I strengthened parts of your heart while you cried. I protected your future while you struggled to understand the waiting. Nothing was wasted, my child. Not the pain, not the loneliness, not the unanswered prayers. Even the darkest nights carried purpose beyond what you could see at the time. One day you will look back and realize those sleepless nights taught you compassion for others who suffer silently. Those seasons of uncertainty deepened your dependence on me. Those moments when everything seemed to collapse forced you to release versions of yourself that could never have carried the future waiting ahead. You survived because I still have purpose for your life. And tonight I need you to stop seeing yourself only through the lens of what hurt you. You are more than the heartbreak, more than the anxiety, more than the emotional scars, more than the disappointments you endured. You are still becoming who I created you to be, and the person emerging from this painful season is wiser, softer, stronger, and spiritually deeper than the version of you who first entered it. That matters. The enemy wanted pain to permanently harden your heart, but instead, your heart learned empathy. The enemy wanted disappointment to completely destroy your faith, but instead, your faith became more real, more honest, more dependent on me than appearances. The enemy wanted isolation to convince you that you were forgotten, but instead, isolation became the place where you finally heard my voice clearly again. Do you see it now, my child? The very things that tried to destroy you became part of the process that awakened you spiritually. And now, you stand at the edge of a new season. A season where peace will begin feeling possible again. Where rest will no longer feel distant. Where joy will slowly stop frightening you. Where hope will no longer feel dangerous to hold. I know you still carry some fear about the future. Healing does not erase every wound overnight. But you no longer have to let fear guide your life completely. You have already survived too much to continue living as though darkness owns your future. It does not. I do. And my plans for you were never destroyed by the storms you endured. Even now, while you sit quietly listening to my voice tonight, there are doors preparing to open in ways you cannot fully imagine yet. Not only external opportunities, but internal freedom too. Freedom from constantly reliving old pain. Freedom from believing you are broken beyond repair. Freedom from emotional chains that quietly drained your spirit for years. That freedom is coming closer. And I know there will still be difficult days ahead sometimes. Healing is not the absence of struggle, but from this moment forward you will no longer walk through those struggles believing you are abandoned, because you know now, I was always with you, and I will continue walking beside you into every future moment waiting ahead. So tonight, my child, breathe deeply, release the fear slowly. Let the heaviness begin leaving your spirit. The season of endless survival is ending. The season of restoration is beginning. And perhaps this message found you tonight. Not by accident, but because heaven knew your soul needed this reminder before the next chapter of your life finally begins. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that not every painful season was sent to destroy you. Sometimes the moments that leave you crying in silence at 2 a.m. are the very moments shaping your soul into someone stronger, softer, and closer to God than you were before. We often ask God to remove the storm immediately, but sometimes the storm is what teaches us how to survive, how to trust again, and how to discover the strength we never knew we had. The truth is, broken seasons reveal who truly stays, what truly matters, and how deeply heaven can carry us when we feel too weak to walk alone. If you are listening to this tonight while carrying pain nobody else understands, I want you to remember this: your story is not over yet. God is still working in the silence. Healing is still happening even if it feels slow. And one day you will look back at this season and realize you survived something that once felt impossible. Before you leave, take a moment to comment your location and local time below. I would truly love to know where you are watching from tonight, and what part of this message touched your heart the most. And if these messages bring peace to your soul, gently subscribe and stay connected with this channel for more healing, hope, and spiritual encouragement. You are not alone tonight.